The silence is the first betrayal for generations. The murmur of the great river has been the pulse of the Sky-minus Spear clan, a constant promise of life whispered against the canyon walls. Now, there is only the dry hiss of wind over cracked mud and the brittle rustle of dying reeds. The children no longer play at its banks. They watch their mothers dig into the hardening earth for the last pockets of trapped moisture, their faces masks of dust and fear. Elder Kale stands on the high ledge, his gaze fixed on the empty channel that snakes through their valley, a pale, dead scar where a vein of life once pulsed. He knows this is not a seasonal drought. This is a severing. This is an unnatural death. The clan's understanding of prehistoric life, their very survival skills, are built upon the river's rhythm. Its absence is a declaration of war from a world that needs no reason to kill. The decision is made without ceremony. A grim consensus born of shared thirst. Kel selects a scouting party of 3. Nora, whose eyes miss nothing, who can read the story of a bent twig or a displaced stone. Gor, whose broad shoulders and heavy spear are a bulwark against the smaller, quicker hunters of the scrubland. Then young Larus, whose speed is his only weapon. Their mission is simple and impossible: follow the river's ghost upstream and find the throat that is choking it. Before they depart, Kale grips Nora's arm, his voice as dry as the riverbed itself. The river is the shaft of our clan's spear. It is broken. If you do not find where the pieces lay, we are all left holding only the sharp stone, and we will be disarmed before the Titans. This is the fundamental challenge facing these early humans. Their intelligence is their only true edge in a world of brute force. Their journey follows a path of escalating decay. The land grows quieter, the air heavier. The usual morning chorus of avian dinosaurs is gone, replaced by an unnerving stillness. Even the roving packs of small omnivores are absent. It is as if the entire food chain has paused, holding its breath. 2 days upstream, a new scent fouls the air. It is not the smell of dust or sun-baked rock, but the deep, cloying stench of rot on a scale that defies comprehension. It is the smell of a fallen mountain. They press on, covering their mouths with damp cloths that do little to stop the miasma from coating their tongues. The canyon narrows, and the smell becomes a physical presence, a one of putrescence they must force their way through, and then they see it. It is not a landslide. It is not a rockfall. The great river is gone because it has been damned by a god. The colossal corpse of an Argentinosaurus lies wedged between the canyon walls, continent of flesh and bone, its gargantuan ribcage, each bone the size of a full grown tree, forms an impossible weir, holding back the water in a vast, swampy, corpse-choked lake. This is the genesis of a new ecosystem, a terrifying necrobiome born from titanic death. And the clan's fate is now tied to the mystery of what could fell such a giant. The scouts stare, paralyzed by the sheer, blasphemous scale of the thing. This is no mere death. It is a geological event. Gor is the first to break the horrified silence, his voice a low growl. Tomosha is there, behind it. He points his spear toward the dark, stagnant lake held back by the wall of flesh and bone. The logic of the thirsty is absolute. They need to get over the dam. Caution is a luxury they ran out of 2 days ago. Nora tries to object, her eyes scanning the unnatural stillness of the water's surface. But Gor is already moving, scrambling onto the titanic femur of the Argentinosaurus. A bone as wide as a fallen log. Naris follows, his youthful confidence a fragile shield against the oppressive stench of decay that permeates this prehistoric world. The surface of the lake erupts. It is not a splash but a violent upheaval, as if a submerged monolith has suddenly risen. They heard, long and narrow like a crocodile's, surges from the black water, propelled by a body of impossible size. A great fan of skin and bone, a blood-red sail, slices through the air as the beast launches itself onto the carcass. It is a Spinosaurus, a nightmare born of river and fang. The true god of this new, rotting kingdom, its conical teeth, designed for gripping massive fish, snap shut inches from Goar's face with a sound like splitting stone. The hunter throws himself backward, tumbling off the bone and crashing onto the rocks below. The great Piscivore hisses, a sound like 1,000 pressurized leaks, and slides back into its murky throne room, its shadow a promise of swift death. The attack was not a hunt. It was a territorial proclamation. They drag a bruised and shaken Geo back to the relative safety of a rock overhang. The direct approach is death. 4 hours. They can do nothing but watch. This is the turning point in human evolution. The moment when brute courage gives way to calculated patience. Nora, perched high on the canyon wall, becomes a chronicler of monsters. She watches the Spinosaurus patrol its domain. It moves with an eerie grace in the water, a semi-minus aquatic engine of destruction. It glides through the soupy lake, snatching gargantuan, trucked fish with terrifying efficiency. But on the carcass itself, it is less certain. It uses the massive pelvic bone of the sauropod as a basking platform, its great sail catching the anemic sunlight. Nora observes its path, the way it navigates the treacherous maze of ribs and vertebrae. She sees a pattern, a rhythm born of reptilian habit. It patrols the deep channel, then rests on its bone-minus throne for a long, dormant period. Here, in this valley of death, the clan's future hinges on the foresight of one woman studying the habits of a king. The challenge demands a new kind of thinking, a strategy that treats the world of giants not as a force to be met head-on, but as a complex system to be understood and exploited. This is the dawn of osteodontochaetic technology in its grandest sense, not just shaping a tool from a bone, but using the very skeleton of a dead god as a tactical map, a shield, and a pathway. The hard choice becomes clear. They will not go around the monster. They will go through its fortress. The answer is not in the monster, but in its victim. Nora, compelled by a deeper instinct than fear, forces herself to study the colossal corpse. For 2 days, from the precarious safety of the high cliffs, she maps the geography of the dead megafauna. Her mind, a tool sharper than any flint, pushes past the overwhelming stench and the terror of the sail-minus-spec guardian. She is not a hunter assessing a kill, but a scholar of paleontology reading the first and only page of a terrifying book. She notes the unbroken legs, the intact tail. This titan was not pulled down by a predator. Then her eyes lock onto a wound on its vast shoulder. A crater of fused, blackened flesh and shattered bone, and like any carnivore's bite, embedded within the wound are strange, dark shards of rock, slick and glassy. Her gaze follows an invisible line of force from the wound up to the canyon rim above. There, a fresh scar marks the cliff face, a semi-minus circular scoop of blasted, dark rock, as if a piece of the night sky had fallen and taken a bite out of the world. It was a sky-minus stone, an impact event. The god did not fall to a terrestrial rival. It was slain by a silent, indifferent stone from above. This was not a murder. It was a cosmic accident, a moment of profound, planetary violence that reshapes the world of ancient humans. This discovery is the key. The impact site is a zone of instability, a tapestry of fractured rock awaiting a single, decisive pull on a loose thread. A plan, audacious and terrifying, forms in Nora's mind. It is a gamble that leverages the very forces that created their crisis. They will not fight the Spinosaurus. They will speak to it in the only language it understands, a challenge to its territorial dominance. A roar of collapsing rock and earth. Laris, young and swift, is the only one who can do it. He must climb to the unstable cliff face above the far side of the lake and trigger a rock slide. A violent percussion loud enough to draw the beast away from the carcass minus dam. It is an emotional turning point. The calculated offering of one life for the survival of the many. Geo protests, his protective instincts warring with the cold logic of the plan. But Nora's gaze is unyielding. He is the fastest. She says, the words tasting like ash. Courage is not a spear. It is knowing when to run. Laris becomes a ghost. He moves along the canyon wall. A small, desperate piece of life in a landscape of titanic death. Below, Nora and Geo are creep onto the great dam of bone. Their stone miners dipped spears now repurposed as levers and chisels. They find their chosen spot, a seam in the putrid flesh between two colossal ribs. Already weakened and torn, they wait, their hearts pounding the rhythm of fear and hope. High above, Naris reaches the precipice. With a desperate heave, he shoves a cube older. A cascade begins, a trickle of pebbles. Then a river of stone. Then an avalanche that thunders down the cliff and smashes into the lake. The Spinosaurus erupts from its torpor, its great sails slashing the water as it powers toward the sound. A furious king investigating a coup. In that moment of distraction, Nora and Geo are attacked the dam. They jam their spears into the seam, heaving with the combined strength of their entire clan's will to live. Sin was there with a sound like thick rope snapping. A dark, foul smelling liquid seeps out, followed by a trickle of water. The trickle widens, carving a channel through the rot. It is not the great river, but it is enough. It is a promise. As they scramble back, the first clean drops of water begin their long journey home, a testament to the fact that within the grand, indifferent narrative of dinosaurs and extinction, the story of Homo sapiens is the story of finding a way. The water that returns to the sky minus spear clan is not the same. It is stained brown, tinged with the taste of decay, a constant reminder of the titanic death that gave them back their lives. But it is life, nonetheless. They have survived not by conquering the beast, but by out-thinking the landscape it commands. They did not kill the god in the water. They simply opened a door in its fortress while it was looking the other way. This act, born of desperation in a valley of giants, is more than a single clan's victory. It is a defining moment in the epic of hominid history. It is the discovery that the greatest threats are not just challenges to be overcome with force, but complex systems with rules that can be learned and weaknesses that can be exploited. It is the understanding that intelligence is not about the strength of the arm that holds the spear, but the clarity of the eye that sees the fracture in the stone above the monster's head. How much of our modern world, our engineering, our science, our very defiance of nature's brutal calculus, was born from these forgotten moments, when our ancestors, small and hopelessly outmatched, first looked upon the impossible and chose not to fight, but to understand. The chronicles of this prehistory are not written in stone, but in the marrow of our bones, a testament to the desperate bargains our ancestors made with a world that was never meant for them. But water is not the only thing that flows from a place of great death.